How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about NIO that was up almost 26% on the day. We ended up getting some great news out of China. I'll talk about it in this video. I won't waste any more time. Let's jump into the agenda. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. But if you're a shareholder, you're thinking about taking a position, I highly suggest you watch this full entire video. So the first thing we're going to go over is the technical analysis. We're going to be taking a look at the overall price action. We want to know support. We want to know resistance. We want to know what it looks like in a bearish case scenario and as well as in a bullish case scenario. And then we're going to go on FinTel, taking a look at the short interest information. The reason why this is important because it does have an impact on the way the stock performs. And then we're going to be taking a look at the order flow distribution. We want to know the buying and the selling behavior on the retail side and as well as on the institutional side. And then when all of that is done, we'll be going into the final thoughts and as well as some more details. So let's get to it. So we're going to do a technical analysis for NIO. Let's see how it performed on the day. So it ended up closing at $18.75, being up 25.59%. On the low, it tested $16.78, and then on the high, testing $18.77. When we take a look at our volume stats on the day, you could see we traded at 166.193 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 98.77 million shares. So right away you can see we had above average volume on this stock, and as far as for the performance that we had on the day, I must say it was amazing to see. When we take a look at our chart, which is a daily chart, you can see from the RSI down below it is at 44.96, and then when we take a look at these moving averages on the chart, we are below the 200-day, the 100-day, the 50-day, and as well as the 21-day EMA. So one thing that is very clear, Lucid is in a bear market, trading below all of our major moving averages. But we can't ignore the fact of the performance it had today. It ended up seeing a high of $18.77, and inside of the after hours at the time of this recording, it is at $19.30, and it's constantly changing. Of course, we have real-time data over here. But aside from that, if we're able to reclaim the 21-day EMA going into tomorrow, which is right at $19.71, it can get very interesting. And part of the reason being is because then we could possibly look for that test going to $20. We do know we will have some resistance here right around $20.39, but breaking out of it can send us up to the next level to see if we can get to the 22s. Another thing that we cannot ignore, though, we do have a gap to the downside. Since we did spike up, we have to take into consideration of where this gap is. And as far as for that gap, it is right here around $15.49. So you're going to want to keep an eye on this level, but I say if we could fill in this gap as soon as possible, it is very healthy and it will get us ready for that next move up. But if we do decide to just trend upwards, that is fine, but just know gaps do get filled 90% of the time. So let's hope that it happens later than sooner, especially for all of my swing traders out there that are looking for some quick profits. Now let's go on to the short interest information. So we're going to take a look at the recent short interest information for NIO. So for the off exchange short volume ratio is at 44.11%, and then for the off exchange short volume, it is just over 28.56 million shares. Scrolling down further on the page, the short shares availability is at 10 million, updated 5 minutes ago, and then for the short borrow fee rate, it is at 0.25%. When we take a look at the history of the short volume, we can see for the close of the 14th, it was at 35.36, and then for the close of the 15th, which was yesterday, being at 44.11. So one thing that is clear, NIO does have short squeeze potential. Now let's move on to the order flow distribution. Now let's take a look at the order flow distribution for NIO. So we see on the inflows at 415, and then on the outflow is 413. Keep in mind these numbers are in the millions. Taking a look at the large, it was 2.63. On the medium, it was 290, and then on the small, it was 122. When we take a look at the outflow side, you can see on the large, it was 2.14. On the medium, it was 296, and then on the small, it was 116. Taking a look at the large scale orders in the last 5 days, you can see for today, March the 16th, we had that inflow of 0.49 million, and out of the past 5 trading days, we've had 4 inflow days. This is what you want to see. And then when we analyze numbers even further for the small scale orders that tend to represent the retail side, we had more buying than we had selling. And then when we take a look at what happened on the medium, we had more selling than we had buying. But when we take a look at the large, which represents whales, institutions, and funds, we had more buying than we had selling. And then when we take a look at the turnover ratio, it was at 10.82%. So this is up there, but I'm not surprised due to the fact it did see above average volume and there was a lot of buying, and I know there's a lot of selling and a lot of traders going in and out of the play. Plus, it was volatile due to the fact that we had the recent news and then we had the reaction to the Fed meeting. So let's go into the final thoughts and we'll go over some more details as well. So for my final thoughts for NIO, before we get further into it, let's talk about why Chinese stocks were taking off today. So we have it here. Chinese stocks trading in the US rocket higher after China signals support for their shares. Shares of Chinese companies listed publicly in the United States surged Wednesday as China on Wednesday signaled support for the stocks. Regulators from both countries are progressing toward a cooperation plan on US-listed Chinese stocks, according to Chinese state media. The move comes as ADRs of Chinese companies have been beaten down recently amid regulatory and delisting fears. So this is some really great news coming out of China, and it gives investors a lot of confidence. This is why we saw a lot of money flowing into the Chinese sector. We see many stocks that are talked about a lot. We have Alibaba, we also had Baidu, we had JD, even NIO, which we're doing a video on right now, we're able to benefit, and as well as the other EV makers. So will this continue is the big time question, because if we take a look at the price action from the day before, we do have a gap that's in the chart. And as far as this gap is concerned, that means NIO would have to have a pullback to at least $15.36 to fill in that gap. But if we continue to have this uptrend, you guys know the level that we want to look out for is at $19.80. The moment that NIO is able to reclaim this level, then we can look forward to seeing a push going to $20. But we do know they have earnings that is right around the corner. So this could bring on some more volatility and we could have a pullback further and fill in that gap. But I say if we can fill in that gap to the downside, especially if you're a long-term investor or maybe you're just looking for a medium to long swing, this will be the most preferable situation. But if you're a swing trader with a short-term time horizon, then you want to see that gap being filled at a later date and you're looking for that run-up at a sooner date. Also, when we went on Fintel, taking a look at the short interest information, it still continues to have short squeeze potential. And it's very clear that there's a lot of demand in the market. But one thing that you want to make sure you pay attention to, there could be some profit taking, especially as we come closer to the end of the week. So being aware of that and having a strategy, and also taking in the fact that when we were talking about NIO, and if you believed in the long-term prospects, you did have an opportunity to buy on the dip. So that's why I emphasize doing your homework and doing your due diligence. It is very key. So let's see how the stock performs going into tomorrow, and I will continue to keep you guys inside of the loop. We'll talk soon.